One day, I spent the whole day listening to Skrillex and his old band. Like, who is this guy? What's dubstep? And I like just listened to it all day. It was kind of cool, you know.
Well, maybe that's where you're going to go next.
Dubstep?
Dubstep. If you look at like the big sort of movements in indie rock, right? There's like guitar-based indie rock, right? Then there's like that lo-fi indie rock, and then there's these weird bands that are influenced by punk and hardcore, and then there's this odd future stuff that's happening. And you know what, Lou? All comes back to you. Wait for it, buddy, because you played in Deep Wound, right? So we have the hardcore bands down.
Yep.
Sebadoh, DIY aesthetic, hand-drawn, lo-fi, right? Right? Guitar rock, Dino Jr., right? Now you're thinking, well, how do I connect to the odd future thing? Kids, my friend, the movie Kids. You did the soundtrack. Whoa, you're responsible for that. Take the blame.
Okay,
no, I'm just kidding. But like, how did that come about? Like, were they just Sebadoh fans, and they're like, would you want to do a soundtrack?
Yeah, Harmony Korine was really into my weird, for lack of a better word, just weird, you know, solo recordings, and that was my passion. And Harmony Korine just really picked up on that stuff, and he really wanted to use it in the film, and then he really wanted me to score the film. I mean, what was amazing about Kids was that they really brought us into that movie. Like,
yeah.
We watched them practically like cast the movie.
Oh, you were there right
We were from there from the beginning.
Wow.
Like, Harmony approached me so early on, and with the concept of the film and what he wanted and the songs of mine that he wanted to use, and he was just a totally obnoxious little kid.
So he's just like a kid coming up to you being like, hey man, I'm a big fan of your band.
I mean, at first he was so bizarre, like you think, like, is he fucking taking the
did you think, like,
piss,
is this gonna be real? Is this gonna actually happen?
Is this real? I mean, it seemed completely imaginary, and the way that he talked too, he was just, every other sentence was a fucking flat out lie, you know. It's just like, yeah, I'm doing this film Kids, and Ron Jeremy's gonna be in it, and you're like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
What point did you think it was serious? At what point were you like...
When they brought me to New York.
Oh.
And I hung out with Larry and Harmony and walked through the streets of New York with them and went to a sushi restaurant. And I was just like, this is real. It's on, you know? And they're just like walking into traffic. Harmony's like whipping those little...
Bomber snaps?
Yeah, bomber snaps at old ladies and cops. And I'm like, oh my God. And Larry's like smoking a joint, and they were so fucking full of themselves. Like, Harmony and Larry were so incredibly just focused and into their own, we're gonna win an Academy Award, and they would just had this whole thing worked out before the movie was even shot.
Was Hollywood calling after that? Because it seems like a lot of people got, maybe not careers out of that, some people got careers out of it.
I was never asked to do another soundtrack after that, no, never.
Wow. What's the biggest misconception about you?
About me?
Yeah, about you. Or the band.
Well, people think I'm an asshole.
Really? People always tell me and say Jay's the asshole.
Or people think that we actually fought a lot.
Yeah.
We really only fought like once.
Well, that was it? It only took one time?
One time, yeah.
You would not cut it and fucked up, my friend.
Actually, was never really, a conflict was never...
It was like a psychological
so little
warfare.
part, yeah, it was more just like silence, and yeah, it was heavy mental stuff. I mean, but in my other bands, like, yeah, fuck, fighting, hell yeah. You gotta fight. You gotta fight. You gotta, but like Jay and Murph both, it's like once somebody raises their voice, they're just like, oh God. They're like out, they're gone. Like, if something happens, and I mean, I can get real loud, real quick, and just like the minute that I would kind of get like animated, people would be like, oh Jesus, settle down. I'm like, what?
The dream, the goal is that you have one band that produces one 10-year record. Yeah. You've been in like 4 or 5 bands that have all produced the equivalent of 10-year records in people, you know? And it's like...
That's why I always wanted to do as much music as possible, because you just never know. You just are basically throwing seeds, you know?
It's kind of cool when you think about like someone like Ian MacKaye, you know? He made a huge impact for Minor Threat, and then did this other thing with Fugazi, totally different, but big impact. There's like, you know, a New Order and Joy Division minus Ian Curtis, but like, you know, that kind of thing. You're like kind of like that, you know?
Really?
Yeah, like I would, you know, and it's hard to see it when you're in it, but you know, I think like, I was just thinking about that on the plane, like how much of stuff has kind of come out of things that you've kind of had your finger in.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounded really gross. Edit that out. Hand in.
I got some stinky fingers.